the BMW E32. This is the previous generation of the BMW 540i, which we tested previously. Today, we're going to put this classic through our usual terrifying tests. First up, the 50% offset frontal crash test. As you can see, this old car really doesn't show a good performance. The roof and pillars bent severely, and this is a very unsatisfying result. I wouldn't want to be one of those dummies. However, for a car whose design dates back almost 40 years ago, this performance can be considered relatively acceptable. Now, let's move to the 100% full frontal crash test. In this test, we can see the car showing a comparatively better performance. Overall, cars usually perform better in a 100% frontal crash compared to a 50% offset. Next, we move to the head-to-head crash test. Two identical cars, but with different colors, collide head-on at 64 kilometers per hour. Both cars gave what I would call a slightly below average performance. We can clearly see that the roof and pillars of both cars are severely weak. Let's move to the rear-end trailer crash test, or in this case, the rear-end tanker crash. Here, the car actually showed a very good performance, which is genuinely strange to me. Now, the side impact test. Given the results we've seen so far, I can't really endorse its performance, as the car doesn't have good safety up to this point. Now, what is your opinion in the comments? Tell me if you think this is good safety. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Durability tests. Now, the pillar strength test, I honestly expect the car to perform poorly here based on the previous crashes. We're also going to run the rollover test. First, we put the car in the designated area and start the pillar strength test. Let's see how much force these old pillars can withstand. As you can see, this car recorded an incredible number, 57,000 newtons. That means this car can withstand about 5.7 tons of pressure. This number is truly strange to me because the car didn't show this kind of performance in the crash tests. It's very odd. You tell me in the comments what the reason for this could be. Now for the rollover test. We place the car where it needs to be and run the test.
A few minutes later.
As you can see, the car managed to show a good performance, and we can't really fault this old car much here. So we power on to the acceleration and braking tests. For the acceleration test, 3, 2, 1. It managed to clock a 0 to 100 time of about 6.5 seconds. And for the 100 to 0 kilometers per hour braking test, it covered 40.5 meters. This number is fantastic for a 40-year-old car. Suspension and handling. Next, our old favorite test, the suspension test. Here, we see that on the cobblestone road, the car shows a very smooth and beautiful performance. Even though this car is technically a semi-sport model, while it became more luxurious in later generations, it wasn't quite like that in the older models. We can see that the dummies inside aren't experiencing much shaking. On the bumpy road, we can see the car is a little too stiff, but we can overlook it and not be too hard on it. If you'd like me to test and review the Mercedes-Benz W124, which is a fierce rival to this car, be sure to tell me in the comments. On the city speed bumps, I think it doesn't perform very well at 20 kilometers per hour. This speed seems normal for these bumps, but the car is struggling a bit to clear this test. But let's move on to the handling test, where we expect a lot from this car. For the handling test, I started at 55 kilometers per hour, and the car easily used that BMW spirit to pass the test. So I raised the speed to 60 kilometers per hour. At this speed, the BMW Spirit is still summoned and the car shows its performance well. We move to 65 kilometers per hour. At 65 kilometers per hour, the car struggles a little, but it manages to maintain its performance. Now, let's test 70 kilometers per hour. At this speed, unfortunately, the car cannot pass the test. So, this 40-year-old BMW can execute the Moose test up to 65 kilometers per hour.